Hi everyone, I'm Emmanuel, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about Moog synthesizer. So I remember when I was making music, I don't know, in the late 90s, mid 90s, it was really difficult to have an instrument like that. First, then they didn't really make them anymore. All we had was digital synths. Some of them were pretty good, most of them were very expensive. I had a Pro One, I had a Juno, I had like digital synths like Alesis Ion, I had the MS-20 Mini, which is a very good synth also, but for different reasons. And then I got my first Moog, which was the Mother 32. And I kind of was blown away by the sound. Not only the sound, but mostly the sound to begin with. I didn't realize Moog synths weren't only the sound. Of course, you have, the classic ladder filter sound. And the thing is, like, the criticism I see from people online mostly is like, with Moog synthesizer, alright, you get a great sound, but you also pay a lot of money. And especially now, you have different brands who do very cheap synths with a great sound. Some even, I don't know if I should say copying or inspiring themselves. Well, sometimes straightforward copying Moog sounds using similar components and stuff. And you can see online, you have many comparison video like between the Behringer Model D and Mini Moog. So on one hand you have $300 synthesizer sounding exactly the same as a $3,000 synthesizer. So why would, music is mostly made of sound, right? So why would anyone spend 10 times the money for pretty much the exact same sound? So as many of you, I was asking myself the same question. And so I had the Mother 32 and I realized I was making great music with it. I really enjoyed Moog. What you have to understand about Moog is, of course, there are these incredibly powerful synthesizers. You can, make sound design and crazy sounds, and of course. But, feature-wise, you would get similarly priced synths by, say, Korg, for example. And I really love Korg, a historic brand, makes great synthesizers, and especially the vocals. But we're not talking about Korg today, right? We're talking about Moog. So, feature-wise, mostly what you get is, somewhere in between 20 to 40% less feature in a Moog than you would get in another synth for the same price. So it doesn't really seem like good value for money, on paper. So why do people keep buying this synth? Right? Music is sound. This is nothing but sound. So in the end, sound matters. Like the sound that you have, the sound that you want to give off. It really matters in that way. But if you want a Mini Moog sound right now, you don't have to buy a Mini Moog. You don't have to spend $3,000 on a synth. You can spend, $300 and get the exact same sound. So what I'm getting at is the difference in the price and the value is not. It's not about the sound, just the sound. Of course you get the sound, and it's a very reliable synth, and it stays in tune, and the controls are very precise. But what you get when you buy a Moog is not just a synth. There are some pieces of gear, there are tools. You have all these features, and there's one I have in mind. That's the Electron Octatrack that I really love. I have one. You really have to learn how to use it, and then it becomes very practical, and it can even get to the point where it's very instinctive and natural to play. But first, like, you have to kind of get around using, like, how to use an octatrack. But you don't really have to get around how to use a piano. You have keys and you play keys and they make notes, and that's it. You don't have knobs, you don't have you know, hidden features in a menu and a combination of, you know, buttons, and you just have strings and keys. So it's about the relationship you build with your instruments, with your hands, as you touch it, as you feel it, as you make music with your instrument. And this is like that with the piano. This is like that with the violin. This is like that with the guitar or a drum set. It's just you sit at your instrument, or you hold your instrument and then you manipulate it. And it doesn't really matter at this point the sound. What matters is, do you feel inspired? Do you feel like making music with your instrument today? Does it invite you? And then, of course, you have the sound. You have the sound that it makes, and you have the feeling that it procures you, like, and you have the feeling that it awakens within you. Like, how does the sound feel? And then, of course, when you have a Moog, the sound feels like a Moog. It feels like, you know, this really brassy and warm and fuzzy and fizzy and everything. Like, it's a sound you can almost feel on your skin. You know, it's very tactile. And in the same sense, when you sit down and turn a knob, and you have some feedback there, and you have something that you know, you have the opportunity to feel something. So as you turn, like, filter knob, as you manipulate a mod wheel or a pitch bend wheel, and as you navigate through the synth and controls, they make you feel something. And this is also what Moog's synthesizer feel like. It's, you know, the wooden side cheeks and the way the filter knob is like heavier to turn, more precise, it seems like it feels extremely precise, and you have the small notches, and you have the nice materials and reflections. And this is also like someone, like, they thought about how would it feel to play our instrument. I don't know anyone at Moog's, obviously, but this is how it feels to me. It feels like they care deeply about the sound, and because you have this consistency in all Moog synthesizer, like, you always have that great sounding synth, and you can instantly, like, retrieve sounds that you heard like 20-30 years ago in, you know, classics, in jazz, in soul, in hip hop, in everything. You can find these sounds in there, of, like, in each and every Moog, you can get these sounds. And of course you can, you know, go further and experiment. And so when you play with a Moog, you feel like the people who built it, who designed it, they really cared about the experience, not just the sound. You know, the sound is something that's, you know, it's a given. When you get a Moog, you're gonna get a great sounding synth, but you also will get a great feeling synth, and that's very important, because music, like, it's about technique, it's about theory, it's about, you know, it's about the tonic and the dominant. It's about, you know, low pass filter, it's about sawtools, and it's about all these features and components, but it's also and mostly about how you feel. Like when you play a sad song, when you play a happy song, a beat, when you play. So you, through music, you express what you feel, and what you want from an instrument is, well, for the most part, you don't want an instrument that gets in your way, you know, more than necessary. So of course you need to learn how to play an instrument. Like it could be a synth, it could be a sampler, a sequencer, it can be anything. You need to learn how to play your instruments, of course, but then it should like move away from your focus. Like if you have a synth that you're constantly trying to kind of fiddle with knobs and stuff, and maybe you don't make as much music as you should, you know, it has to be a synth that's fun to play with, that's fun to experiment with, but it also has to be an instrument that when it's time to make music, you don't get distracted. It feels right, it feels exactly how it should, it sounds right, it sounds exactly how it should, and I think Moog, like out of every single synth and instrument manufacturer, especially synth, of course, that I've ever had the opportunity to try, they have this like feeling thing right. They have it right, and they have the sound right, and maybe the sound, you get the same component. I don't know that much about electronics, right? So I assume you get like a similar component and you put it together in the same way, and maybe you can achieve like other brands, like they copied and successfully the Moog sound. You can have the Moog sound in modular now. You can have the Moog sound in the $300. Since you can have the Moog sound in the boutique by Roland, you can have the Moog sound with a plugin. Basically, like computers are so powerful nowadays, it's very, very difficult to hear the difference between a plugin and an actual synth. So that's something that pretty much everybody, you know, who's half competent figured out, like how to recreate like a popular, powerful and high quality sound. So that's it's not easy by any means, but let's say, all right, that's pretty. It feels pretty straightforward, right? Yet there's only one Moog, and because it's not just about the sound. It's about the filter knob that's heavier to turn. It's about the incredibly smooth pitch bend wheel, and like the way they feel the material and the way they look when you manipulate them. It's not that easy to replicate because it requires taste. It requires like mastery. You know, it's not easy to pick up the correct wood and put it together. I assume it's not. And if you want to make something, you know, that looks and feels amazing, it requires something that I like to call like the intangibles. Something like you can't really point. Like it's experience, it's taste, it's culture. You know, it's heart. Like the willingness to produce, to go above and beyond what is expected of you. And that's very important. And that's what you get when you get a Moog synthesizer. You get something like they don't have to make these. They could, you know, and to some extent, like arguably, and I would argue, you know, I would have this argument. They could do easy stuff. They have a name, like people still like buy them. They don't have to innovate. They don't have to, you know, they don't have to do anything. Like this, like the legend says, and I don't know if it's true. It's probably true because it says so on the synth. Like it says employee-owned company. So the company went down, and the employees, I assume, got together and decided, all right, this is a company that does something unique. This is a company that does something right, that does something that matters enough so that we should get together and try and save it and keep it going. And that's not a small feat. Like, you commit when you buy a company, when you commit like a significant part of your life to something that you find meaningful. And in that sense, like, who would do that? Like, you probably have a job. If your company went under, would you buy it? Like, would you get with like colleagues and then decide, oh, let's just buy the company where I work with? It's going under, and no, most likely not. Maybe you would. Like, it happens sometimes, but you know what I mean. It's not the usual way of doing things. So, but then again, people did that, and because I assume they felt it was worth, giving their life for, because that's what it is basically. So, this is what you get when you get the Moog synth. This is people actively like working towards making music instruments that will make you feel like making music, and making better music, making more music. They will invite you to play and have fun and reflect. That's what you get when you get a Moog. And how much does this worth to you? You probably write, if you want to say, oh, I just want the sound, because my music is just about the sound. And I know incredible musicians who make all their music with plugins. I couldn't do that. Like, they do it, and it's amazing. All right, fine. I really like to have this relationship with my instruments. I really like maybe you do too. That's maybe why you watch this video. I really like to have this relationship, like have this instrument that I get to know over time and that surprises me. And maybe I surprise it, and in the end, you get better music because of it. I sincerely believe that when you have inspiring instruments, you get more inspired to make more music and better music. And so again, that's like, it's not like, it's about the sound, but it's not only about the sound. And it's about, and even the sound in a way, intangible. How much of the heart and soul of people who are working at designing and building the synth, how much of their heart and soul transpires into the sound to some degree, to how, like, to what degree? So that's worth thinking about. And I feel like if you care about having inspiring instruments, if you care about, maybe not having stuff that you would swap every couple of months. This is like an instrument that you will keep, like a grand piano, like a guitar, like a violin, like a real music instrument. That's not gonna get out of fashion in 6 months. That's always gonna sound great. That's always going to be a workhorse. That's always going to be like an inspiring instrument to look at and touch. I don't know of, I would call myself a fanboy, and that's why I make this video, most likely. But that's what we like. That's the kind of instrument that you want. That's the kind of instrument that actually is an actual music instrument. So, yeah, it's not like, if you just want the sound, fine, like more power to you. And I wouldn't criticize you for just wanting the sound and spending less money, and that makes a lot of sense. By all means, just do that and make the best music that you can with that. And I'd be glad to listen to that music and appreciate it, and that's fine. You know, maybe you're not like that. Maybe you need to have this relationship. Maybe you need to build a relationship with your instrument, and through that relationship then you will make your music. And if you're that kind of person, then that's the kind of synth that you want. So yeah, I guess that's my piece for today. I'm Emmanuel for In Modular with Love. See you next time. Peace.